MRW, up or
Do you wanna
down,
serve
balls
or
up,
do you wanna
balls down,
return?
POD.
Which side is the sun, man? Are we serving?
Wait, which play is that?
Spin the racket.
Welcome back to Spin the Racket, the recreational tennis pod, covering everything from the Pro Tour to the everyday league player. I'm your boy G.
And I'm Lou.
Today we have a special guest joining us on the pod, Edin Sehovic from Evidence Nutrition, a science-first fitness and nutrition creator known for breaking down viral takes and turning them into practical, evidence-based advice. Edin, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That was really concise, but well-rounded. I can appreciate that intro.
Trying to get all the angles here, you know?
Dude, that was well done. You know what? You know, when someone does an intro and you're like, dang, I don't even know if I would be that nice to myself. That's crazy.
I love it. Well, we always start the podcast off with one of our favorite questions. So first off, would you rather have no serve or no forehand?
Just to preface, though, both of those options suck. And what's the context? Are we playing singles or doubles?
We've never been asked that question before.
Yeah, that's a great...
I feel like that drastically changes the situation.
Let's stick with singles to keep it consistent.
Singles.
Yeah.
You know what? If it's singles, then I'm gonna go no serve because Rafa once upon a time won the Roland Garros with no serve. So I'm gonna call that one out and say there's still hope. You know, if I have no serve, but with no forehand on a singles, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough.
Wow, look at Rafa catching some strays there. Just you know.
I mean, come on, let's call a spade, man. He's an animal, and full respect to him. But his serve needed work, and he fixed it. He got a lot of work done on it.
He did. Yeah, he's my goat. But let's not go down too far.
Started off
really
hot.
Controversial. I mean, starting off bringing up Rafa, that's great. Thank you for being part of Team No Serve, because I think for the past like 3 guests that we've had, it's been Team No Forehand. Everyone just wants to be a serve bot. But I mean, the question is phrased so that you have to sacrifice, 2 of the biggest shots in the game. So there's I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
Yeah, speaking, because I like to go data driven. So if we look at the data and if we think back, I can't remember the last time a serve bot won a slam. So I'm going to call that one out there for all of the viewers to, just think about it that way. That's my perspective. But to your point, I don't really think in this hypothetical there's any wrong answer because both would suck having to lose it.
Yeah, the fun part of the question is how people justify the answer.
Yeah,
that's really where let me figure out what you're thinking and how you're going about it. So
100%.
Yeah, and this has been a long time coming for me specifically. I'm the one that found your content, just scrolling through social media. I'm a big fitness advocate. I mean, G is as well. He's actually a fitness coach, coaches for Metabolic. I can let him talk on that quite a bit, but we're both into fitness. I digest a lot of fitness content and, just came across your content. I found it very unique, very, very great to just see the reactions. I'm big on reaction-based content. So, I appreciate you, joining us in this episode. I think it was the 2025 US Open. I realized when I started following you and at some point you posted something about tennis and I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Does Edin play tennis? Is this what's happening? And I think I saw you. I think it was like an elevator pic that you took somewhere in the U.S. Open around New York City, and I was like,
"Yeah,
dude's at the U.S. Open. All right, this is legit.
Yeah.
He doesn't just dabble in tennis. He's involved." So that's how we found your content. Obviously, from there till now, it's been a journey. So. How'd you get started with creating fitness and nutrition content?
So, first of all, before I get into that answer, I want to point out one thing is that the content creates itself. And so I don't want you to think about, oh man, we're just getting started. Because at the end of the day, if you make good content, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, because this video or the next one, or, you know, I'd love to hype myself up and say, oh yeah, this is going to be the one where you guys explode on. But you never know which one is going to be the one that makes you Joe Rogan or makes you whoever you look up to in the podcast space. So I always want to remind creators that it's been the most random videos that for me get a lot of traction. But I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've realized that ultimately two things: your community matters, but your following doesn't. So the amount of followers you have does not matter, but building a community matters. And that's important for my answer, because I'm very keen on building community. For the last 5 or 6 years, take you back a little bit. I had been playing tennis my whole life. I was 3 years old when I picked up a racket for the first time. My dad played all the time, used to be a teaching pro. And so 5 a.m. was parked my butt at the door waiting for him to leave in the morning before work so that I could, maybe get the chance to play tennis at some point. And they always laughed about that, but I'm sure that was really annoying back in the day. So, and then that's how I started playing tennis, which is important because at a specific point in my life, at about 14, I was always a skinny kid, there's no, PC way to put it. I was just way too skinny, and you could see it. I was always skinny, but I all of a sudden just got like ghastly skinny. Like it was just to the point where people would look at me and be like, ugh. You could like feel that look, right? And, no disrespect to anyone at any weight, but at that height, I don't remember what my height was, but I remember I was in the 9th grade, 14 years old, and going into the 9th grade, I'd lost a substantial amount of weight. I think it was about 30 pounds. And so now I was about 85 pounds at 14. So if you guys know any 14-year-olds, most of them are probably, especially if they're male, most of them are above 85 pounds. Even if they're female, most of them are probably above 85 pounds or somewhere thereabouts. So for me, that was not good. And that's, I got diagnosed shortly thereafter with type 1 diabetes. So again, very transformative moment in my life. I'm sure like Sasha's in many ways, but I got it very late on in my life. Once it took about 2 years to kind of dial that in and get that sorted. But at that time, you're starting to ask yourself the questions of, do I go to school? Do I try to go pro? Do I do whatever? Like you're playing so often. And at the time I was playing so often, people always like to hose me when I show up in tennis content. They look up my ITF records. Like, yeah, dude, I sucked. So you can feel free to look me up. My ITF was a very losing record, much like most tennis players. But anyone I think in the industry that actually played at a professional or high level knows how few people have a winning record. So I was a solid player, but as far as like professional goes, I sucked. So that, I got to kind of level. And then at that point, that's very also important context, because when you're looking at it going, can I make a living doing this? Well, historically speaking, absolutely not. So I decided to go into something that I was interested in learning about, which was, how does the food that I'm taking in? I also was keen about the fitness, which is important, but I decided I was more interested in like the food that I was eating and how it impacted my diabetes, which impacted my tennis, which impacted all of these things. So in a way, having diabetes was very transformative, because then I started a degree in dietetics, nutrition, and it's a food science degree. So I got that degree, kind of, gave up on tennis for a temporary period of time. I was playing very limited amounts, but still trying to stay involved where possible. It was tough. The school didn't have any tennis team or anything. So ultimately I chose my education. Then after I finished my education, I moved to Barcelona, worked for a tennis academy, a couple of tennis academies there, notably Forslam briefly, and Barcelona Tennis Academy was another one. And I was just working for a few other sport groups there, just kind of giving seminars on nutrition and athletes and how that works. Then continued my education after that and moved to Vancouver, where I am based now. That's when I thought, I have a little bit of time. It was just before COVID, actually, and I thought, maybe I'm going to give this video thing a try. I had already been dabbling with like a blog to try to just provide people free value. If they were like a client of mine, I would say, hey, that question that you had for me, well, I figured in case some other random person in the world had the same question, I wrote an entire blog about it. I realized throughout that the writing was not for me. Like, I just feel like I'm a very distracted writer and made it very difficult to read. I'm also a very distracted speaker, but I was able to create short form content where it was just long enough that I didn't get too distracted. So that's when I started making videos just before COVID. Then COVID happened and I just dialed in on the videos. People started asking questions and then it snowballed from there. Didn't really experience any growth for about 3 years, but I'm just glad I'm extremely persistent, even though, tennis teaches you that. I got to give full credit to tennis. Is like, you lose every week. So I was just catching L after L after L after L. And I mean, I didn't really know what I was looking for. I just genuinely wanted to provide people the answers that they were looking for and in a well-researched manner. But that I found like most people wouldn't give that answer because it's not sexy and it can't sell anything, which was most of the answers that I had to give people, unfortunately, required taking this thing that they could have bought and they were like really excited about. And they're like, oh, is this supplement good? And then I would go, no, and here's why it would actually be like a complete and total waste of money for you. And then that was a bummer for them. And they go, damn, I can't solve all my problems with this one bottle of whatever.
Yeah, the silver bullet method, right?
Exactly. So that's kind of how I got into it. And, I still play tennis where I can, as much as I can. I'm still affiliated with Babolat a little bit, and with other brands as well. I got to go to the US Open, which is super fun. I still have a few clients that play professionally, so I help them out. But as you guys know, pros, it's not like it pays the bills. It is a true passion project because professional tennis, they barely pay their own bills, let alone my bills. So
That's right.
Yeah, we had a guest from JY Obone from it's a new tennis league coming up here in Atlanta called Intense. And he made the argument, it's like he asked the question, like, are you a professional tennis player if you just play professionally, or does it only count if you actually are able to, break even and make some profits at the end of the year? Like, are you just playing professionally or at a professional level, or are you actually a professional player?
Yeah. I feel like I saw maybe that piece of content or someone else maybe that recreated it, because I heard that question a couple of weeks ago and I was like, to be honest with you, I still don't know if I have an answer for it. I would have originally said, if you've made any money, period, you are a professional level player. However, you are not a professional tennis player unless you can cover all your expenses, because how are you going to say that you are a professional or an expert in this field where you can't even make a living doing it?
Yeah, you can't live off of that. It's a tough one, man. It's
By the way, there's no judgment on my part on the pros that can't make a living doing it. I still have all the respect for them. It's just, I don't know, for the sake of this argument, that's kind of where my head is at.
Yeah, it's just, you just got to face it. Like, tennis statistically is one of the hardest sports to break into. So
yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
it really is. So let's break out this tennis skill. So obviously, you mentioned you started when you were 5. You've played for a very long time. You said that you sucked, but anybody who starts that young has to be decent at tennis, right? I mean, you build the fundamentals early on, like you have some good form, I'm sure.
Play.
Like, let's talk about your skills. Like, do you play a ton now? Like, do you play leagues or tournaments? Or like, are you winning more than you're losing? Like, what's it like?
I mean, I like those questions because I feel like that does narrow it in a little bit more. And to your point, I feel like you can tell exactly if you've been in the industry long enough, you can kind of tell how good someone is by how they answer questions. And usually, not to say that I'm humble, but I think most solid players are more humble in their responses, mainly because, again, they caught a lot of L's. So you're not going to be flaunting anything because you're like, yeah, I'm solid, except for 100% of the time I was losing. So no, I mean, I currently, full disclosure, like I currently play nowhere near as much as I want to. I play 1 to 2 times a week only now, but I was just looking. I'm just looking at joining for something for the spring, kind of summer. So yeah, I'd love to play in some leagues, but typically with the players I'm playing with now, depending on the level, like I'll be mostly winning, but I'm really out of shape. And I said that the other day in my story, and it like blew up. Because like, yes, I look fit, but being able to last in one set is okay. I could do that, no problem. But the moment it gets tight and I have to play 2 or 3, forget about 3. You can forget about 3. If I win that second set, I have to concede the third. So
You're like, there's a tiebreaker, please.
yeah, super tiebreak at most. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah, there's fit and then there's tennis fit, right? Those are two different things. Being able to like hit the ball at a certain level for a certain amount of time, and
Yeah,
just
I think
able to.
I think if we were to be like strict on verbiage, I would say I'm lean, or I have like a lean physique, which people associate with being fit, but it doesn't necessarily mean being fit. Like I could be lean with a decent amount of muscle mass and be smoking a pack a day. I'm sure there's some guys that smoke a pack a day that can run a marathon, but that is statistically unreliable. So I would say I'm not that bad, but I could use some work for sure.
I'm curious about your playing style. So, I mean, we were talking about Rafa, who you already threw under the bus here, but you got the Babolat shirt on. Like, starting when you were young. Like, what's your style like? Who do you emulate?
Oof. Who do you want to emulate, or like who do you actually emulate? I mean, who do I actually emulate? It's like who bunts everything. No, I would have loved to. I mean, obviously Roger was kind of the chef's kiss. That was what I always wished I could emulate. And then I feel like throughout my career, so to speak, even now, I genuinely do feel like now I'm actually in a certain sense improving more, even though I'm not playing that much. Is that I don't have the pressure of the juniors, like, oh my God, if, how am I going to be able to pay for the next one and this and that? It's like, relax, brother. I just need to be able to pay for the balls on the next time we come out. Like, there's nothing that deep about it. So once I was able to get that pressure, which I was not able to deal with as a junior at all, like me personally, it was something I created too much for myself. And then I would just freeze up. So now I feel like I can actually improve my strokes. I obviously want to be like Roger in terms of how early he takes cuts on the ball. Not a one-handed backhand, I have a two-handed backhand, but I even my entire life, I didn't really like Djokovic's playing style until probably 4 or 5 years ago. I started to really I'll concede that I really started to understand why his playing style was so effective. And backhand, I tried to take some pointers from that. But actually, funny enough, Rafa, God, what year was it when Rafa just started stepping in and ripping backhands? That was the year when I was like, damn, look at that. I'm going to do that. And I started, trying to take a little bit from Rafa's backhand, which probably sounds like the most "what are you talking about" statement ever. Especially considering how I roasted him at the beginning. But yeah, Rod, I like to take from the forehand of Roger. I really wanted to emulate that. And then you guys can comment on that. I mean, you said you've seen me play, so I try to take from that. Serve wise, I also tried to take from that, but I kind of, you add your own flair to it. Whether or not it's like I kind of slide my foot a little bit, but not fully. I don't know what you guys refer to that as, platform versus not.
Pinpoint.
Place. Go ahead. Pinpoint?
Yeah, platform versus pinpoint serve. Which one do you have?
So I guess like I slide my foot a little bit, but you can only see it on clay. Otherwise, it looks like a platform. Yeah, so
it's like sounds like my attempt of doing a platform serve for years, where I just kept like going through shoes because I kept dragging the tip of the shoe every single.
That's exact same. But it doesn't come
I
all the way in.
Shoes.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't play enough to go through that many shoes, and also shameless plug. Thankfully, the new Babolat shoes actually have a lot of reinforcement there. So
didn't they come
really
out with
solid.
like the Jet Mac 4s? I think it was.
Yeah, they're really nice. I just got the black and yellow ones, and I've been playing with them. I've already played with them probably 10 to 12 times, and moving hard. I mean, look, I weigh 230 pounds, so me moving side to side on that is a lot of stress. But they they're pretty solid. Not to make this all about the Babolat shoes, but yeah, play style. I mean, I like to get up to the net when I can. I like to take advantage. I don't think, even when I was a junior, I was playing at like 150 pounds. Now I'm obviously 80 pounds heavier than what I was when I was competing. So it's noticeably heavier for sure. But I still try to do my best to, use the same play style. I'm not as fast. Downfall. Shocker. I'm not as fast, but I definitely still can take the ball early. And now I just have a little bit more power behind my shots, so I can get away with a little bit more. So that's kind of how I would describe it if I could, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to a lot of that. I just for some context, similar to you when I was 17, I personally just crashed out with tennis. The pressure got to me. It's like you said, at some point, once you go at a high competitive level, you're losing every week, and you're losing a lot more than you're winning. And it's just like grinding and grinding. And it's like, the results are here and there. You might win a few points. You're like, oh, I lost better. But it's like, dude, it's a grind. So at 17, I just kind of cut it off. I pulled the plug on it. And I practically didn't touch a racket for 10 years. Came back to tennis like a little over 3 years ago. And it's like, I tell friends, like, when I play, it's like, I feel like I'm a 17-year-old stuck in a 30-year-old body. I picked up where I left off, but then all of a sudden I'm like 50, 60 pounds heavier than I was. And my limbs are longer, my arms are heavier, like everything just feels different. So you're having to adjust to all of that. And you're ripping the ball way different than when you were a kid. So like my play style has changed too. It's ridiculous. Like no one would be able to like know what I played like as a junior when they see me playing now.
Yeah. I mean, no, I think you said you saw me play. Like, I think the biggest shocker would be that, like, I was just a clay court grinder, like standing at 4 feet behind the baseline. And I loved long rallies. Dude, you couldn't pay me to get into a long rally now. So
Same.
the heavy the heavy spin, and which is why I struggle with the backhand a little bit, is like I really wanted to just have lots of time, and I grew up playing a lot on clay. So I just like to do loopy spin and sit back, and I really struggled with taking the ball earlier. Now when I think it's just because we have less pressure, right? When you're a kid, you have even the positives that people throw at you. They're like, yeah, you lost a little bit better. You're like, it's not good enough. So and I feel for a lot of kids now, man, like especially when I see it and I go, man, like don't compare yourself to the Carlos Alcaraz of this, like, it's so hard. It is so hard. Like, I love that they're in the sport, Carlos, and I got lucky enough to meet him at a Babolat event in New York. But
cool.
I even said it to him, like, it's briefly. We only chatted briefly because he's a busy guy. But like the new generation of kids, like, they're not even making it onto the scene as a pro yet for the majority of them, or even to university at the point where he's already winning slams. So it's like, it's really tough to try to explain to a kid that feeling that you and me got at 30, he got that at like 16 and then was able to continue riding that. Like that mental switch is probably the biggest thing, I think. Him and Sinner, of course, no disrespect to Sinner. I think he's going to be a crazy player as well. I was just for the sake of this conversation, I think they're both like, I am partial to think that Carlos will probably do better, but I am not going to count Sinner out. I think that guy's going to have like 20 slams. Between the two of them, I think they're both going to get a stupid amount of slams.
Yeah. I mean, let's unpack that for a moment. You said the the influence, the benchmark that these two guys are setting on the tour, right? I think we're already seeing what happened with like let's just call it the Djokovic effect, right? Where like you now have Djokovic, complete player, can hit everything well. And now you see everyone like in the top 100, they have like practically no weaknesses, right? Everyone is able to hit every shot well. For, maybe statistically speaking, most of the guys have like a complete game. Like think about now how Carlos and Sinner have been able to like just take that and just step it one notch up. And then now it's like you have these kids growing up thinking like this is the standard. This is how my game needs to be. If I don't play like this, I'm not gonna make it. It's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I think it's crazy how far. Like I always like to talk about when I'm having the conversation around tennis with clients or whatever. I think it's really important to talk about the floor and the ceiling. So or rather, the ceiling and the floor. Most players on the tour, as you said, in the top 100, they're trying to do everything right, and all of their ceiling, I'll say, is similar level. Right? Like they're all similar. I honestly, with the exception of probably Sinner, that guy hits the ball. Like when you hear it, you're like, it's different. He hits the ball different.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone else that has anything else that is as comparable in any capacity, with the exception of maybe serve bots. But then they have the drawback of maybe not being able to run as fast or whatever. But even that is non-existent nowadays. Serve bots can run now, which is wild. So I think they all have a really high ceiling that's comparable. Like they're, maybe someone is a little bit higher or whatever in terms of their peak ability. The problem I find with tennis when people start to like compare this benchmark, and it is really tough in the moment to do it, but also I think it's important to take a step back when kids are trying to process this information, kids and rec players alike, is that the problem is not how high their ceiling is, because everyone's always like, oh man, I got to take it another level. No, man, like in all of my conversations with all of my pro clients and friends, it's always, nah, man, whose level dropped off or whose bottom, their floor, when they're playing terrible. How good is that? When they're playing terrible, how good can they still compete? And the reality is for Carlos, his floor might actually be lower than Sinner's. But like you look at them at the Australian Open, they both had at least one match. Sinner had 2 matches and unfortunately lost. But even in those 2 matches where his floor was like he was at the worst we've seen him play, he's still competing with the best in the world. And who knows how good, maybe that other player was maybe not at their peak, but somewhere in the middle, because that's a reality. You're very rarely in tennis playing at your peak. That's some serious nirvana to be playing at your peak for an entire match.
I was going to say, when does that actually happen? Most of the time, your backhand left you, or you now have to like chip balls in because you got tight. Like it's true. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. So I always consider it that way, is like there's always 2 things to look at to improve. Can you improve your ceiling? Well, at a certain level, a lot of players they probably hit their genetic potential pretty quickly. Sure, you can improve your backhand, like Shelton would be a good example. Improved his backhand and probably raised his ceiling a little bit, but that's also because he raised his floor a little bit, because now they can't just bully his backhand. He's not just bunting it, he's actually taking like full-on swings at the backhand. So I think I think that's kind of like the approach I have to it, is like there's 2 things you got to improve simultaneously, and the best can do it extremely well, and the rest we just sit and watch them do it extremely well. So,
fair. Yeah, you mentioned your clients a couple times. Do you work with only tennis players? Do you work with other just normal rec level folks?
Yeah, so I do work with both on a nutrition and fitness aspect, but mostly looking at nutrition. So when we look at the pros, I work on a consultancy basis with them. So we'll meet up, we'll chat, we'll look at what their routine is like. Obviously, I can't kind of disclose all of that information of who I work with and whatever, but a lot of it is just we will chat about, hey, what does your pre-match routine look like? What is your typical pre-match meal? And I think that's my most common question whenever I make tennis-related content. The tennis nerds, I'll call them, myself included, by the way, so let's not get offended. But, tennis nerds or tennis buffs will come out of the woodwork and be like, well, what's the best thing that I can eat before? What's the best thing I can eat after? And what's the best thing? And I go, well, it's kind of like playing at your best. That will happen once in a million. Let's focus more so on the every single day things that you actually do. And then let's take it from there and kind of improve upon that. So that's what I look at with the athletes, is like, hey, look at what we actually do on a day-to-day basis, and let's see what we can improve upon from there. And then especially when we're talking about the pros, we have a lot more considerations there, like, Usually they don't have access to a kitchen. Usually they can't, like, meal prep, forget about that. You can forget about that. Meal prep is a dream, a distant dream. It's like, do I even have a kitchen? Do I even have access to food that like, I literally had a player 2 weeks ago message me. He's like, hey, I'm in Egypt and nothing that, like, he's not a picky eater. He's just like, I don't, like, understand anything. I can't find the things that I'm looking for, right? So there's a language barrier. There's like I don't know where to go, and I have to play my first round tomorrow.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah, and
So
sometimes they don't even know.
like, these are very, and that's not an uncommon question.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say sometimes they don't even know when they're going to be on court, right? Like they could be on court at 9 a.m. They could be on court at 12 p.m. and you have to be ready for either time, right? So that's another level of complexity for all this stuff. What's like the most common pitfall you find in like people trying to like prepare for playing tennis? Like what are some patterns you see, and maybe how do you address that?
I kind of hinted at the most common pitfall in tennis. I think tennis has a lot of type A people. So that just comes with the nature of the fact that the sport is quite expensive. Not quite golf, but you'll still get a lot of type A people. Not only type A people, but the people that love the sport tend to be more likely to be type A. And with that comes the layer of complexity that is trying to be perfect, which you cannot be. We learn this all the time in different aspects of tennis, and trying to be in control of everything, which is something I hinted at earlier, which especially as it relates to nutrition, you're quite literally in control of like 5% of that. So you're trying to make a 100% result with a 5%, there's an arbitrary number, but you have maybe 5 to 10% of control of the actual situation, and you're hoping that you can get an A+ result. And then you're not even doing the basics. So you end up thinking like, oh, the supplement thing from earlier, maybe what can I use? I don't know. I'll use this Monster Energy drink. I get it all the time. They'll be like, oh, should I have coffee or should I have caffeine beforehand? And I go, like, why? Let's unpack that. Like, why do you want to have an energy drink beforehand? Are you tired? No. Did you not sleep well? No, I slept great. Do you like feel like $1 million right now? Yeah, I feel awesome. Okay, so then we also, not to mention, you have, the tennis players will tell me all the time, right? They have budget constraints. I'm like, so you're going to spend, $5, $4, whatever, especially because pros, if we're talking to pros, they're just going to go to the gas station or to the tennis club, which the tennis club always has inflated prices. So then you're going to go there and you're going to buy the convenience of $5.50, $6 for this, and for what? You didn't even really want it, and it was a flavor you didn't want. So it's just like, what are we talking about here? So the thing that I think is like the biggest pitfall in tennis is people overcomplicating everything, refusing to do the basics because it's not sexy, and then wondering why off of, in my opinion, C- effort, they think it's a lot of effort. Don't get it twisted. They think it's a lot of effort because they put a lot of thought into it. But putting a lot of thought and stress is not the same as doing the work, the groundwork. And that's commonly conflated in my experience working with all ranges of athletes. But I do also work with club level players and, with varying levels of success. But the people that are kind of more open to listening and learning, they end up saving money. They end up improving better with less work, just because they kind of hyperfixate on more of the things that might actually, raise their floor, for example, that I was mentioning earlier. It's raise that floor. Then if your floor raises, man, your level in general raises. So the floor that I'm speaking about here is like improving their sleep. We don't need to worry about what kind of caffeine supplement, whatever. Can you just go to bed? Put your phone away. Don't scroll on Instagram the moment you get into bed. But, I love it. That's probably how you found me. But at the same time, that's probably not going to be great for your sleep. Then can we talk about like hydration? Oh, you drank. And now this is a lot on my female side of the board here, but not exclusively. It's like, oh, congrats. You drank like an entire bottle of water today. That's it. And you're an athlete, right? You played tennis for 2 hours. All right, can we talk about maybe getting hydrated? Oh, well, what about this hydration supplement? You don't even sweat. We don't need to talk about a hydration supplement yet. You don't need electrolytes. You just need to drink water and eat properly. So that's kind of where I would go with that. And then it gets a little muddy when people are like, well, what is properly? Well, it depends on the person.
Yeah, then at that point they have to book a consultation, right? Like,
I mean, like,
if they want specificity to the advice.
For sure. I mean, look, it's not me trying to be. There's one side of it. It's not me trying to make money. It's me trying to understand you. But in order to understand you, I need to have some level of commitment, and so do you. Right. So if I don't have a commitment and you don't have a commitment, what are we doing here? I'm just going to give you something that maybe, some wide range of advice that hopefully can encapsulate your situation, and whether it does or doesn't, and whether you choose to apply it or not, well, that's probably because you had no level of commitment. And usually financial commitment in today's day and age is kind of how people understand commitment. It's like, oh, I paid for this, therefore I got to give it a good hard try.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I've realized, working in the industry that I'm in, is that freebies have never worked for anybody, unfortunately. In my experience, I've never seen any of the freebies I've given away, and I give a lot of them, never seen them work, and it is the most unfortunate situation.
Fair. That's fair. And so, I mean, in that case, if you're talking to someone who is trying to be more serious about their broader health and fitness, especially as it relates to tennis, and what should they be eating and exercising, like what do you tell someone who's just trying to get started there?
I would start by asking fairly general questions. For example, like, how many fruits, vegetables do you eat? And then they go, oh, well, I'm doing organic, this and that. And I go, okay, no, back it up. Like, just answer that question. Just fruits, vegetables, period. I don't care if they're frozen. I don't care if they're canned. I don't care if they're whatever. Eliminate the buzzwords and just try to understand, like, how much of each thing are you consuming? Just understanding that, like you said, getting a broader understanding of where you are now helps you dictate where you can go and where you should go. Instead of sitting in the grocery store and hyperfixating on the ingredients list, let's start by first, okay, how many whole foods am I even consuming? And be really critical of yourself. How often am I eating out? If you're a pro player, kind of comes with the territory. You know what I mean? You're on the road all the time. You're going to have to eat out a little more. But if you're someone who is at your neighborhood, country club, whatever, that has all the time in the world to play 3 to 5 times a week, if you can play 3 to 5 times a week and you can't stop yourself from eating out like 4 times a week, really 4 times I would say is kind of the max for people. Then I would say, hey, let's maybe just bring that down. Like, how often are you eating out? Because the reality is, if you're someone who plays a lot, doesn't sweat a lot, you probably don't even require the amount of sodium that you're consuming. Just look at Chipotle, for example. I think that's the most complete, best thing for an athlete, broadly speaking, again. However, in terms of fast food, but it's so high in sodium. So you're getting a day's worth of sodium in your one meal. I hope you're going to eat again. And then on top of that, you're probably going to be taking some electrolytes, which not only are they unnecessary, but now you're giving yourself potential increased risk of, heart disease. That's okay as an athlete. Sorry?
So you're killing my dreams here.
Well, but see, and then that's something that you have to have a serious think about, right? Is do I need electrolytes, or do I just kind of like the taste? In which case I could go away with the Splenda drops that I love and I advocate for all the time, or something else, right? You could do a Coke Zero, or maybe something less caffeinated, right? That is something that I always urge people to think about, because even in athletes, Element, for example, is a company that comes up. This is my opinion.
Everywhere.
This is my opinion before they come after me, because the guys from AG1 already have. The Element packet is useful for people, but the amount of people that it's useful is this big, and the amount of consumers that use it is this big.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Gatorade. It's kind of like Gatorade. But I would argue that if you're using Element, regardless of brand, I have no affiliation to either. If I would say 99% of people would be better off with a Gatorade, even the full sugar one.
Really?
Because the use case of an Element is usually
gram of sodium.
Oh, yeah, well, I need some sodium or whatever. But Gatorade only has like 300 milligrams of sodium,
Yeah.
whereas, or 310-ish, depending on the size, whatever. And sure, it has some sugar, but again, if you're using it for athletic purposes, which is what Element is kind of advertised for, well, then you'd probably want those extra carbohydrates.
Right.
However, if you're someone who's trying to, especially an athlete or anyone who's trying to lose weight and doesn't want the extra calories, cool, get the sodium, potassium, get all those things, but get a Gatorade G2 or Gatorade Zero. So less calories, you don't get the carbs because you have different goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. See, even I can't even speak broadly because I always end up trying to like think about the individual people that I actually see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the market is plagued with a lot of competition on the electrolyte situation. I think it's just ridiculous, right? Because most folks, you hit the nail on the head. Like 95+% of people like are not gonna be sweating enough to need to consume electrolytes. Like there are still electrolytes you can get from regular food and just drinking and hydration from water. So sodium is in everything that we eat nowadays, pretty much.
Yeah.
Even the
if it's
sweet
packaged,
stuff.
there's going to be a lot of sodium. You can guarantee it.
It's going to be a ton of sodium. So you're stacking a gram on top of that. And I'm pretty sure the recommended dosage, like daily intake, is like what, 1,500 grams?
It's like 2.2 to 2.4 grams.
There you go. So I mean, you're talking about half your daily intake with just a little packet of. I mean, even myself, right? Like I have pretty rigorous workouts in the morning. I come out like the shirt got dumped in a bucket of water. I go in the sauna for 15, 20 minutes, and there's a lot of sweating going on. Even I am like, should I take electrolytes or not? Am I at the level where I need them? I've been at that point where I think I've generated fatigue from not hydrating properly. And I don't mean water, I mean electrolytes, being depleted with electrolytes. So I've kind of been in the situation where like, how much electrolyte should I be taking on a daily basis? I got one of the, I like to be frugal. So I got this brand called NutriCost, and they have an electrolyte mix that is pretty simple, but it's very low sodium. So if I want to crank up the sodium, I can just, crack a little bit of like pink Himalayan salt on there, and I can kind of dial it up instead of just going, hey, this is the recommended amount, and it's got the ratios right, but I can't control the sodium.
Yeah.
Because it's just got a full gram.
That's a great point, and it kind of brought up another thought that I normally would have if I'm talking to someone again, because then I have more time to talk to someone and understand. There's also people that sweat a lot, but there's people that sweat a lot and lose a lot of sodium in their sweat. There's salty sweaters and non-salty sweaters. So there's, two guys, if you look at, I think a perfect example is if you look at a college tennis team, and if they're all playing, going crazy, especially on a training, then the guys start taking their shirts off. You can kind of see when they take their shirts off and kind of like if you line them up, who has more salt in what. And that's a very simple test, is like how much salt is left over. Do you typically have like lines in your hat? If you don't, then you're probably not sweating as much sodium or losing as much sodium as you think. But if you do, then you are that person that could probably benefit from some electrolytes. Right. Again, it largely depends on, are you eating a lot of, are you having Chipotle for 2 more meals afterwards, or are you not? And you prefer to get from electrolytes, and then you're eating everything, clean. I don't like to use that terminology, but maybe you're cooking for yourself at home and lower sodium, right? So that's why there's so many moving parts all the time, and it's very dynamic. So it does become very challenging, which is mostly why I would say like, hey, book a consult, man, because I'm not trying to give you advice that sets you down a wrong path. And also, if I waste my time, just answer this one question. Well, if I just waste my time to answer that one question, I want to make sure it's answered and not, leading you astray, which it could easily be.
Yeah. That's cool. Yes, making me want to book a consult myself. I'm like, all right.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're always tweaking and tinkering here, trying to figure out, how to improve, right?
Good.
We're big fitness folk, as I would say. So, it kind of comes with the territory, right? Especially as you, Gerard and I always look at it from like the recreational player's perspective. Like we both have 9-to-5 jobs. We both are in our 30s. So it's like, it's kind of downhill from here. Like I think the peak,
Okay.
like,
Taste.
well,
Listen, speak for yourself, but okay.
Hold on.
Well, we're all moving in the same direction, right? Like we're never going to be like, I think the peak age is like 27 years old for for an athlete, right? And like after that, it kind of starts. There's obviously like your Cristiano Ronaldo, your Novak Djokovic, Tom Brady, who proved that you can be 40 and world class athlete, but. For us mortals.
Every time I speak on this, by the way, I get like absolutely destroyed from both sides of the aisle. So I'm going to refrain from giving my opinion on where the peak of human performance is.
What are your thoughts?
Like,
you're not going to get hate here. I think our audience
not
is
immediately. Wait till this gets uploaded, man. I'm gonna have somebody's wife in my DMs like, "How dare you?" Blah blah blah, and or something else. Look, like the reason I say someone's wife is if we look at the research, your body and your metabolism does not slow down until 65. Now, what does that say? That says. Obviously, you can interpret that how you will, but how I've interpreted that is assuming you can put the exact same amount of work, effort, attention, and have, and this is the most important one, the desire to continue to absolutely fuck people up like Novak and Cristiano both have. And they, again, have the means to provide themselves someone to take care of every single job on the list and remove any friction, then I think they can perform at this high of a level for till 65 in theory. In theory. However, the more important thing that people are like struggling to accept from when I bring this forward is you start to have kids. Once you have a kid, like, dude, I have a dog, you said you have a cat, like you're immediately, even if it's just for a brief moment, you're not thinking about yourself. Even if it's just for a brief moment, you're not thinking about yourself. Imagine a kid, dude. A kid is like, whoa, he has two. So then this is where the moms come in. Oh, it's easy when the wife is doing whatever. Sure. Yes, the wife, sure, nanny, sure, whatever. First of all, he's got to think about paying that woman, making sure she's on payroll. He's got to worry, like the nanny, not the wife. Then the wife, he has to worry about, look, he's traveling. I don't care who wants, I'm going to speak about Djokovic here. Anybody can say whatever they want, but now he can't play the full calendar. He can't play the full calendar because you can't be away from home. Your wife's going to kill you. That's stressful, right? Like think about that level of stress. And so that immediately, like with each one of these factors, it's like diminishing your ability to play at your top level just because for that brief moment or for that hour of your day, you were not able to like dial it in. And then on top of that, it's like when you get to the point that they're at, hey, you're the GOAT. You're like undisputed on paper. You're the GOAT. Why continue? Then the creep of doubt, and then that's where the desire part, it starts to fade. The desire, like, do I still want to do this? Like, I'm gonna finish this match. I'm gonna play 2 weeks. I'm gonna be in Australia. His family didn't come along, and so then you're like 2 weeks away from the family. Which they do in, he's probably 20 weeks of the year, I think, right now. So 20 weeks of the year, you're away from your family, you're missing moments. That's guilt. That's, time that you could have spent on your craft and now you can't because you're feeling the guilt. And then you have to pay all these people a tremendous amount just to fill that gap so that you can still somewhat compete at the highest level. And like, do you want to, like, look, even when you have everyone replace all of these things, like for Novak to stay as lean as he does, he has to be really dialed in with his nutrition, like extremely dialed in. So is that enjoyable? Like, does he want to have a beer from time to time? Yeah. Like, does he want to have a beer? Does he want to, rip a dart? I don't know, whatever. I don't know what his vices are. Does he want to have a few extra avocados? I know he loves avocados, but like, or maybe is he sick of eating that way? So these are common things that I think people often overlook when that conversation comes up. In theory, though, I think Novak could keep playing. I mean, he's proving me right. Every time he steps on the court, he's proving me right. And I bring this up every time because he is in his 40s. And even Roger, I mean, pending injury. And injury just removes that desire, right? Like, you're like, what's the point of playing if I have to go through recovery? I have to start up again and build my knee up and do whatever. And so that's when things get tough. because they're always, at all points, these athletes are always walking that fine line of, am I training hard enough or am I injured? They cross that line right away and injury. So I think that's where, I think the peak performance of an athlete could be up until their 60s, but it's not likely to happen past their 40s because life happens. Their priorities shift. And I think that's the best way to summarize that.
Yeah, not to, and that just, that
I'm
reminds
open to
me
other,
of,
I'm open to
that reminds me of when
conversation.
Roger started having kids. And I think we all saw how like his performance dropped. And I remember seeing an interview when he was like, yeah, I'm used to sleeping like 12 hours a day and having a baby. Like I can only sleep like 10. And I'm like, dude, like I would love to be able to just sleep 12 hours a day. But you can see there's obviously a disruption in the routine. And I recently saw a post that talked about like it's an analogy, obviously, the 4-burner law, right? Think if you have a stove, you have 4 burners. You have work, you have health, you have family, and you have friends. You can't like essentially turn all the burners up at once. The moment you turn one up, you have to put away the other, right? And it's like it's balancing these sacrifices where obviously you has to start having kids and all. And this goes mainly to the rest of the population, non-pro, is everyone start having kids. The health maybe takes a little hit because you have a baby. You start, your sleep patterns starts getting disrupted and all that stuff. And then like, when do you get back to it? Do you get back to it when they turn 5 and they can go to bed on their own, or do you never get back to it?
Yeah. It's the classic idea of there's always a trade-off to everything, good or bad. There's always a trade-off to everything. If you put on all 4 burners to that analogy, it pops a fuse, and it'll pop a fuse. So you want to make sure that it's constantly not like fully all the way up. There's always a trade-off, and that's kind of the theme of even, if you think about the advice that I give to players all the way throughout every single piece of topic that, every topic that we were talking about up until now, there's always a trade-off. Sure, you chose to have an electrolyte. Okay, well, now you have to choose to not eat Chipotle. Sure, you chose to have, caffeine here. Well, you're going to have to choose because, especially if it was like at night, for example, well, you're going to have to choose to impede your sleep a little bit and just be okay with that. I hope the performance was worth it, right? Like, so, and sometimes the answer is yes, absolutely, right? So, Stan, that one time, that one famous time he had a espresso brought out to him on court, and it was at like 5 p.m., right? Like he was just tired. And so you have to do the trade-off. Like, if you look at the winnings, you're like, yeah, it's worth it. Absolutely. Yeah, so for us mere mortals, we're like, yeah, it'd be nice to make 50 bands in an afternoon. So yeah, I'll take that espresso.
I feel like we've been covering everything that we had here, just going, in different directions. Let's focus a little bit on like people that may be looking to try the sport, right? They're, adults, because it's tough, right? I just saw a post that it's like, yeah, it's fun to go skiing, learning skiing when you're 30. I just met a few new people. I met 2 paramedics and 1 doctor. Yeah. So I kind of used that, and I was like, shoot, that's kind of how tennis is, right? You feel like you've just you go into it as an adult, and it's like, for people that are listening and they've never played tennis, like it can be a very intimidating sport. What would be kind of what would you tell somebody that's thinking about trying tennis for the first time?
I would say that much like with anything in the world, generally speaking, if someone's better than you at it, they won't make fun of you for it. So if for myself, for example, I don't think I've ever spoken poorly about someone unless they've rubbed me the wrong way with something they said that was unrelated to their tennis abilities, right? Completely unrelated to tennis. But like when you come in to try to learn, everyone's pretty understanding, and everyone also started at some point, right? So, it's just like for us, we have a lot more years under our belt. I would say that, start small. Start with always you want to win, like have wins, not win in the sense of the sport, like matches, but, have little wins like, hey, I set a milestone of I just want to hit a forehand over the net. And maybe it's only with the orange balls or the green balls, the green dot and orange dot balls, the and work your way up. I think those are a fantastic way to kind of get yourself into the sport. Hey, I just want to hit a forehand over. Cool, got it. Hey, I just want to hit a backhand over. Hey, I just want to have a rally, and kind of set these milestones along the way so that you can feel like you're winning all the time, because as we already discussed in plenty of detail, it can feel like you're losing all the time in tennis. And so, yeah, try to eliminate that perfectionist mindset, because if you have that, tennis is not the sport for you. So I think that's kind of the things that I would say for a beginner. And just try to have fun. Like, it is ultimately all about being social. That's why when that research came out in Denmark, like, that's why it was voted not voted, I guess it came out as one of the top sports for longevity. I have my opinions on that paper in general, and extrapolating too much information from that paper. But, the correlation is there. The correlation is there that tennis is, you can get really fit. You can get, you can be social. You can hang out with people. The other thing that people don't mention about that is typically people that play tennis are also wealthier, so they have better access to healthcare and better access to quality food. But if you can afford it and you can build good friendships, I think all of my friendships that I've ever built through tennis are my longest lasting and like highest quality friendships, because you immediately have something that's like a point of overlap with your friends.
Yeah.
You mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that you're big on community.
Mm.
That is something, and I mean, this is just live here. That is something that, Gerard and I are trying to do with this
it's tough.
podcast, is obviously create a recreational player community, give access to, as many people as we can, and just offer as much value as possible. Whether it's like, we're based in Atlanta, so we're going to start with, just creating some sort of local guide for people. Like, I moved here 3 years ago. I didn't know where to play or where to go, what were the good courts where people met up, who to find at my level. What advice would you give us, just thinking about starting a community ourselves?
No one is an idiot. Every single person, even someone that you think is the biggest idiot, can teach you something. So I think that is, I think I mentioned it earlier, like, I'm pretty stubborn. And not stubborn in the sense of like, hey, you disagree with me, I won't hear it. No, I'm stubborn in the fact that I want to build a community, and I'm stubborn in the fact that I want people to understand what I'm saying. Then once that is acknowledged, then we can move on. I can hear what they're saying, and then maybe I'll learn something from it. So even when I get feedback, every comment is a piece of feedback. Even if it's just, haha, that's feedback, right? But if someone gives me feedback, I think I can always listen to it and think, oh, so that's what you were expecting to hear. Or, oh, so, okay, you agree. Or, oh, wow, people typically disagree with what I have to say. When I get a video that goes viral for all the wrong reasons, you're like, oh, wow, there's this many people that think, something that's, materially incorrect. So, but that's feedback, right? You're like, okay, wow, this is okay. And then with their comments, you can kind of see how they got to where they got. And it's about trying your best to have a conversation with people. And ultimately, it's meet them where they're at. So it's easy to do in tennis because you can physically see where they're at in terms of their level. But it's a lot harder to do conversationally, as well as tennis players, in my opinion, are typically going to be less vocal online. Comes with the territory of being successful in wherever they are. They don't want people to know who they are, for the most part, but they're curious about what's happening out there. They're I call them lurkers. So they're people that follow, maybe don't ever like anything. So if your goal is to build a following, it's get them to feel motivated enough to like, comment, subscribe. But if you think about that, that sounds manipulative. It kind of is, but it really is just a constraint, a challenge. And this is how I think about all my videos. When I'm making a video or whatever it is that I'm doing is, okay, I hear, the call to action. I hear whatever I say. You can break down the technical aspects of the video. Fine. Assuming your technical aspects are good, which they're good enough for you guys. I'm telling you that right now. They're good enough. I think for me, it's where's the value that I'm expecting to give to them? And then are they receiving that value? So give them all the value, or if you think that you can give them more, give them even more. If you find yourself editing a video or talking through a video and you go, oh, you know what would be really cool if I added blank, but I'm too lazy, fuck it. If you ever did that, you missed an opportunity. It's that, add that in. If you're ever going, nah, someone else didn't do it either, that's where you can jump on it. Opportunity, immediate opportunity. And that's where I would ultimately say is, like, I'll use a stupid example, but just so you have a concrete example, when I make my videos, I started getting significantly more engagement just because I added those stupid little sound effects that I put in my videos. People, and every time, people are like, Edin, what's the point? Like, I added captions because people started telling me, like, hey, I actually just watched this on mute, so I would appreciate it if you had captions. Okay, cool. Boom, feedback, captions, done, next. And that took a lot of extra time for me, but like, ultimately, it's, I want to give you the value, and you must receive the value. Because if I give you the value and you don't receive it, then it was a waste of time.
Right.
So, you know, forgive me for drowning you out, but, you know, then after that, I realized, I was like, okay, well, there's still people that don't watch this on mute, or that will see me talking and see the words going, and then they'll put the volume up because they just instinctively think it's important enough and they want to hear it. Well, now, in order to make it more engaging, anytime I pan in or pan out or switch the screen or something pops up, I have a sound effect on there. It is extremely tedious on the editing side. It makes my videos go from a 2-hour edit to a 3.5 hour edit for a 1-minute video, but people stay engaged. You know, I've gotten comments about it like, hey, it scratches an itch in my brain. I'm like, good, I'm glad. Think about that one person that commented. Think about how many, like 30 people didn't even realize it scratches an itch in their brain. And then that way, you know, it helps build the community that you want, is one that's engaged. So I think really it's every idiot can teach you something. And I say it that way because typically we're like, no, you know, fuck that guy. But, you know, right? Like, especially if it's something heated, you're like, no, fuck that guy. But if you listen to what they're saying, they always give you a good piece of feedback. Even if it's, that feedback is like, man, I do not want to associate with, you know, Djokovic fans. Or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, even if it teaches you, like, man, I really don't want to ever talk about who the GOAT is 2 minutes into the podcast. Now you learn something, right? Even the worst, silliest piece of feedback can teach you something. And that's something that, for better or for worse, I really believe in. And I don't really have a lot of science, but to prove that. But I find, for me, how I engage with communities, it's simple, do the simple stuff, answer people. Any DM that comes my way, I answer it, or try to. Obviously, I've always got a long list that I'm trying to get through, but try my best to answer everyone. Try my best to engage with every comment if I can. The little simple things, and people appreciate it, I think. I hope.
Sure. That's great advice.
We sure do. We're gonna have to wrap up. It's funny enough, Gerard has a what is it? Is it an Alta match?
Yeah. Alta makeup.
Yeah. So it is a tennis match. He has to go to.
Mixed doubles.
Good man.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that you don't play a lot, but then you go ahead and quote like 1 to 2 times a week, and I was like, dang, that's like, I guess I don't play a lot. I don't know what a lot is.
I don't know what the standard is, to be quite honest with you. I feel like if I get 2 in a week, I'm like, damn, I'm doing well.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I mean, at this age, I feel like that's great. So,
dude, yeah.
And we're going to give you the floor for 1 minute. Where can people find you? What are you working on right now? What's coming up next? And any message you want to leave the Spin the Racket audience with?
So you can follow me at Evidence Nutrition on all platforms. I will be coming out with a lot more tennis content this year. I'm partnering with Babolat USA to bring a lot more tennis and nutrition content together. So you can follow Babolat USA as well if you want to see some more of me, but specific to tennis. And otherwise, I just want people to live a happy and healthy life. So reduce their stress. Learn something maybe, and try to provide that for free to kind of level the playing field where money is no object, and you can now get my level of expertise for free just by following. So if you guys are interested in that kind of thing, follow me at Evidence Nutrition. Otherwise, I'm going to give you guys your minute back.
I love it.
Awesome, man. All right. With that, Thank you so much, Edin, for being part of the episode.
No worries. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah. I'm Lou.
And I'm G. Keep on spinning.